Major retailers advertise your products and services. It's on the shelves. It's in Amazon. And then you say it's a great gift.
Well, that's the fun. Christmas time, Hanukkah, holidays, or very often one of the absolutely fun things about being a publisher is I'll walk around with books, and if somebody's really in need or really has a problem they need to have solved, I'll give them a book. And the excitement, it's sort of like, oh, and here's another thing that's often fun for me is I'll say to somebody, hey, pretend you're a kid in a candy store. Go to our website, take a look at the books, and tell me which ones you'd like me to share with you.
Yeah.
So if you're an author,
I mean, you brought to the studio, you brought me 3 books. I felt like you gave me a little Christmas present.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it is. How about some of the mistakes people make, either in trying to write the book themselves or in the industry, or talk about some mistakes and maybe how to get around them, too.
Oh, sure. Well, let's assume that as a professional service provider, you're looking at this and you're saying, I need to put a book together myself. So what do you think about? Well, you think, maybe I want to create the perfect book. And that perfect book is going to sell oodles and oodles of quantity, and I need to go to a New York publisher to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So that would be one of the mistakes, and we'll talk about that in a second. The other side is, I'm going to sell oodles and oodles of books, but you know what? I don't want to share the profit with anyone else. I want to do it myself. I want to self-publish. So really, on both sides of the spectrum, going to a New York publisher and self-publishing are the big mistakes that people make. And both of those, actually on our website, I've been interviewed by various people, and we talk about those mistakes in much more detail. Mm-hmm. But in general, on the New York publisher, and this is potentially one of the problems you might have run into, you want to create the perfect book. Mm-hmm. That perfect book typically takes 1,000 hours. Mm-hmm. The problem is it's never perfect. It's never done. So what we try to do is we say, if you're going to create a 100-page book, it's about an hour per page. Mm-hmm. So you're only spending 100 hours. And you know what? If it's not good enough, well, you can do a reprint. Mm-hmm. Jason Alba's book, we reprinted in 11 months. The Twitter book, we have a book called Twitter Means Business.
Because probably while he's talking, he's getting feedback on how to reconstruct it.
Of course, the industry changes.
That's true.
So that's the thing. The New York publisher, typically the route is you got to find an agent, 2 to 3 to 4 months. The agent then tries to shop your book around 6 to 7 months. If the publisher says yes, it's then 12 to 18 months before you have a book in the marketplace, and you spend 1,000 hours.
What if a person has a lot of good ideas and they could dictate it, but they just don't feel comfortable in the other part? So do you have some joint writers that do things together? Or one's got the idea and the other one, well, yeah.
So there's a ton of different ways to write. If you do, how we work, we're not a vanity press. So if you actually hand us a manuscript, we don't charge to publish with us. On the other hand, if you just get stuck, you have a ton of presentations, but you can't put them in place. Or you've done a ton of blogging articles, but you just can't pull it into a book. We actually can bring, and we would manage the ghostwriters to pull the rest of the book together for you. That's a paid-for service, but we could drive that for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to ask you how hard or how easy you think putting a book together is. Now, you've said 100 hours and all, but, it could be a difficult 100 hours or whatever.
Oh, sure.
On the continuum of very difficult and simple, where would you put? Well, we'll just talk about happy about doing a book through you guys.
Sure. Well, it depends on what you call a book. But let's define a book the way we do it Happy About as 100 to 150 pages. I would consider it extremely easy. Because when you're putting together a 100-page book or 150-page book, you're not actually covering the world. A lot of times if you do a book in a particular series, you want to cover all topics associated with that series. Mm-hmm. What I'm looking for is a point of view. So what is your point of view of getting a job, writing a resume, using LinkedIn, using Twitter? Those are the types of topics we cover. And so I could have 5 or 6 books on using LinkedIn. It's all somebody else's point of view, so it's all going to be relevant to a different audience. For you personally, it's almost like dictating. It's like speaking into a microphone or just if you're doing talks and speeches all the time, the content just flows right out. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, putting in a 100-page book or 25,000-word book is a whole lot easier. If you want, let me talk about this one for a second, the Driving Success with Books.
Okay, the one that you authored yourself.
What was interesting is I was in front of a CEO networking group, and I presented them with a challenge, and that is, how do I get into more corporations? And what was interesting is they fed back, I was mentioned to you earlier, they fed back exactly what I feed to others. I typically say to people, create a book in your industry and it's going to be helpful. Well, these guys said to me, Mitchell, you need a book on why you should write books. And that's why I had the aha moment, hit myself in the forehead. You're absolutely right. 4 months later, I was done. Now, the scary part, it was 4 months later and only 50 hours of my time. So in this particular case, what I did is I went to 2 different aliases, and I actually asked a bunch of authors, if you're a successful author and books have helped change your life, tell me your story. Mm-hmm. Now, of the 42 authors that are presented in my book, 38 of them wrote the story directly and just sent it to me, and we did a little back and forth communication. I've got to know a lot of them a whole lot better. 4 of them I wanted to interview directly because they were just amazing people, and I wanted to spend some time talking to them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, this is a really valuable book, and I've heard some great feedback on it, and it only took me personally 50 hours.
You said something interesting that I think might be a bit of a breakthrough for some people, is if you're used to talking about it, like you're a service provider, and you're talking to clients and you're saying these ideas, I must say some of the same ideas about branding and networking, connecting, it flows out of you. So if you can get it down on paper, either by doing it yourself or having somebody else just write what you said. And a lot of times service providers are pretty eloquent, but they have a block. Just like when I was a math major, people would have a block about that. So do you find that they can just express this idea or a couple of ideas and that's maybe covered in a 100-page book?
Well, I have to tell you, I'll give you 2 different examples. The first one, the easy one, is if you've been writing a blog and you've had 40 blog entries, your book is probably mostly done.
Yeah.
You probably need another 10 to 20 hours to pull together the rest to make it happen.
I know what you're going to tell me, because I have
by the way,
50 newsletters of all different...
So your book is mostly done. By the way, the hard part comes once the book is published. It's the marketing, it's the awareness building, it's letting people know about it.
Yeah.
We do have a prospective author, so not an author yet. But if anyone is a writer and wants to take a trip around the world, this guy travels to all the different continents, and he feels the only way he can present his book is by speaking. Uh-huh. And so he wants to hire somebody to travel with him, and on the plane he's going to dictate his book and you're going to pull it together.
It's almost
that
like a
opportunity
fantasy.
is right open right now.
Wow. From a different angle, those of our audience that could use your book for being more efficient at work or using the internet better or their job search, can you talk a little bit about a few of the titles that someone might want to purchase on Amazon or through you that would be useful, even though they're not writing a book? They're
absolutely.
So tell us a few of the...
it depends on your interest level, whether it's career or social networking or physical networking or marketing. We have a number of different brands. The website, as you know, is happyabout.info. All our books are available in all the traditional bookstore areas, and particularly online. Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Borders.com, and so forth. The topics are fascinating. LinkedIn. If you want to figure out how to use LinkedIn, we have 3 or 4 different titles that are all focused. One is I'm on LinkedIn, now what? Mm-hmm. Everyone asks that question of themselves.
Right.
We have another one, 42 Rules for 24-Hour Success on LinkedIn. We have another one, if you're a recruiter, Happy About LinkedIn for recruiting. Yeah. We've done the same with Facebook. We've done the same with Twitter. Now on career, we have a number of different career books. The Successful Introvert's an interesting one. Yeah. There's How to Write a Resume. And this one is one of the best resume books out there because it has a number of pictures. So you actually see the pictures in the resumes and see what works and what doesn't work. We have a number of fun marketing books, and you've had a number of our guests in the past.
Yeah.
Some of our books are, Kimberly Weefling with Scrappy Project Management, and she's doing a whole series of books which are how to get the job done, even though it might not be politically correct. Mm-hmm. So the interesting part, and now what's fascinating about Happy About, I don't care about that one book sale. So we had somebody call this week and said, listen, I'm in dire straits. I really want to buy your book, but I just can't afford it if I don't like it. Mm-hmm. And so my response was, listen, take the book. If you don't like it, we'll refund your money right away, because we have 100% refund policy. Mm-hmm. She goes, that's really nice. Very nice customer service. Mm-hmm. So she got the book, and probably within 4 hours she said, I'd like to get my money back. And I said, keep the book. I'll send you another one if you want.
Wow.
And we'll refund the money.
There's a whole different mindset around it, right? Because the average, I haven't taken a poll, but my guess is the average person who writes a book thinks or hopes they'll make a lot of money out of it. This isn't the model here. It's much more like, this is a tool to bring some attention to what I do. I almost don't care. Well, I guess you would want to make money from the book, but that's not the main goal, right? It's not to make money on the book per se.
Steve, these are the conversations I have with the authors all the time. So if you look at my author base, a number of them are getting really nice royalty checks. All of my authors are profitable, which means that we've sold enough books to cover all our costs, and I'm writing them some form of royalty check. It may be small or not, but what's really important is how many of them have incremental speaking engagements, how many of them have more consulting engagements, and it ranges. My most successful author tripled her income in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it was just by having a book that she used. So now what we're doing is we're teaching and training people, okay, how do you use this asset called a book to drive more business for you?
And do you see, we're just about out of time, do you see a future for books? I mean, gosh, look who I'm asking. It's like, is the roast beef good? Even though we're talking about paperless society and all this, there's still a future for books.
Oh, absolutely. But you know, the book, we sell our books in Amazon's Kindle. We're moving into the Sony Reader. So whatever way people want to read books, whether it's electronic vehicle, and the Kindle is absolutely phenomenal, or whether it's there's still people, particularly our generation, who likes the tactile feel of a book.
I do.
The point is, we as a publisher have given credibility to this expert to actually put a book in place, and we said, you need to read this. And the nice part about a 100-page book, it might take you a couple hours to read, and you're done. And you get the satisfaction of actually finishing a book. And that's
I always
really
had a
valuable.
friend, you can read it in one sitting, and I said, what is a sitting? But I have a general idea. Listen, we're out of time. I think you've convinced us all to either write a book or read your book. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks for watching You're Hired. If you have any input for us about this show or suggestions for future shows, feel free to email me at steve@bayareacareercoach.com. Again, it's steve@bayareacareercoach.com. Do check out the website. You can find the 12 keys of getting a great job, sign up for the career newsletter, find out about the career coaching I do, and I put all the contact information for anybody who's been on the show so they can contact you, right?
Absolutely.
Okay? And my website is www.bayareacareercoach.com. Again, it's www.bayareacareercoach.com. And your website?
Happyabout.info.
Okay. Catch you next time on You're Hired. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Anytime, Steve.
I think we covered most of the questions.
Oh, we did great.
I just wanted to make sure that the viewers got a chance to know how these books might be able to help them besides writing the books. And it looks like there's a lot of topics that cover a wide range of areas that, you know, that people could use to navigate their way through the internet.
No, you did a good job. I think
Did we cover
I feel like we covered everything.